Videos that seem innocent but have a terrifying backstory, part 5. This man kept finding food in his apartment that he wasn't eating, so he asked his girlfriend about it and she said that she wasn't eating it either. He didn't believe her, so he set up a video camera to catch her eating the food in the middle of the night. The next morning when he checked his video camera, he found footage.
If you're alone right now, don't watch this video. In the winter of 2018, a man who was living alone in the mountains wakes up to find a red ball sitting on his front yard. He assumed the only neighbor he had must have kids, and so he kicks the ball over the fence, goes inside, doesn't think anything of it. That night, he wakes up to the sound of kids laughing outside of his window. He goes outside to check on them because it's the middle of the night, and there's no kids anywhere, but that red ball is back on his property. So he picks it up, brings it in his house, and goes back to bed. The next morning, he goes over to his neighbor's house to let them know that their kids were out in his yard in the middle of the night. But it turns out his neighbor is just some old man who lives alone, and there aren't any kids anywhere in the area. That night, he wakes up again to the sound of kids on his property, and when he looks outside, there's no kids, but that red ball is back on his property. Panicked, he runs downstairs to make sure the one he brought in is still inside, and it's gone. He checked every window and door, and everything was still locked. It didn't make any sense. He decides to look out the window one more time, and off in the distance is some weird, stiff figure watching him.
This is a scary story about the mother. There was a girl named Jill who always hung out with her mother, but she noticed her dad never hung out with them, nor did he even look at her mom or talk to her. This confused Jill, but she never asked him about it because she thought it wasn't any of her business. One day, Jill was playing with her mom in her room when her dad came in and said that dinner was ready, but he only looked at Jill and not his wife. When Jill came down to the table to eat, he finally got the courage to ask her dad why he doesn't talk to mom anymore. Her dad then looked at her with a weird expression on his face and looked very scared. Then said, "What do you mean?" Jill then said, "Whenever I'm with mommy and you come in the room, you never say anything to her." Her dad's face grew pale and he said, "Honey, your mom has been dead for your whole life. She died in the hospital giving birth to you."
This is the story of the almost perfect murder. In 1971, John List killed his entire family, his wife, children and his mother. And he had meticulously planned the whole thing. After killing them all, he placed the bodies in sleeping bags and lined them up. He also wrote a letter to his pastor explaining why he had to kill them. And then he disappeared. 18 years later, he is remarried and tries to do the whole thing again. But this time he was arrested after a tip was given to the FBI. It took 18 years to capture him. The creepiest thing about all that was that he thought he was trying to save shit.
The more you think about how this true story ends, the creepier it gets. In 2015, a college student was renting the basement apartment of his friend's house. One weekend, his basement roommates take off for the night, so he decides to use that time to get some homework done distraction-free. But as soon as he sits down to do his work, his friend upstairs and his family starts making all this noise, moving furniture around, shuffling feet. It's impossible to focus, so he picks up his phone and he texts his friend. "You guys sound like you're really having a good time up there. I'm not really getting anything done. Can I come up?" And his buddy says, "No one is home. We went to Wisconsin for the weekend." Terrified, he runs out the side door to get a look in the window to see who's making all the noise. All the lights are off in the house. There's not a single car in the driveway. He had been home alone the whole time.
This is why you should never go on a subway again. So what happened is that one night, a teenage girl was taking the subway home from work back to her house in New York. The scary part is when she went on board, she sat directly across from two men with a woman sitting in the middle. The creepy part is that the woman kept staring at her and wouldn't even blink while the two men never once looked at her. Well, at the next stop, a man with a trench coat walked in, but the girl didn't pay much attention to him. The girl kept trying to look away so that one lady wouldn't stare at her, but she just kept looking, wouldn't even blink. Well, at the next stop, that random man with the trench coat pulled out the teenage girl and dragged her out of the subway. She was screaming, asking for help because she had no idea why this guy just pulled her out. But the guy told her to calm down and said he actually saved her life because the woman that was staring at her was actually dead, and the two men next to her were holding her up to make her look alive. The random guy with the trench coat said if he didn't pull her out, she was going to be their next victim.
Top 5 scariest things caught on camera in abandoned tunnels. This is all done in one part, so make sure to follow because we don't do part 2s here. Number 5. A group of explorers are searching through an abandoned tunnel built by the Germans in World War II. The unique thing with this tunnel is that the Germans were hiding this from the public. Even to this day, it's unknown what happened in these tunnels, but these brave explorers captured something shocking that I think you should take a look. Number 4. 3 friends begin to search what looks like an abandoned train tunnel. They soon realize that the tunnel is a lot longer than what it appeared to be, and they begin to panic. They start jogging and see lights at the end of the tunnel. They begin to get excited because they think they found the end, when suddenly this happens.
We're probably barely halfway. What if a train started coming right now? It's a train! I'm gonna get on the side.
Number 3. A Russian YouTuber wanted to explore tunnels and found a tunnel so small that he actually had to take off his backpack. He starts to crawl within these tunnels and suddenly his camera and light begins to act up. He then begins to exit the tunnel, but not before he captures this. Number 2. 3 guys are exploring a haunted insane asylum abandoned tunnel. The tunnel is based in Ontario, Canada, but they begin to panic because they lose their friend named Matt. They start lurking around dark corners trying to find their friend when suddenly they find this. Before we get to number 1, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Austin Vro. I just stayed in the most haunted hotel in America, and I think you should check it out for yourself because what we captured is insane. I'm gonna be posting the video next week, so make sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss it. Number 1. A Ukrainian man is exploring the woods when he finds an abandoned bridge. He starts walking alongside the bridge when he finds a sewer that also looks abandoned. He quickly pulls out his phone and starts putting his phone down in the sewer. This is what he captured.